You've been 50-50 on them. Who's the best? For me now, Carlos just feels...
Clearly, we've never seen a more explosive tennis player ever than Alcaraz, right? As athletes evolve, is it possible that someone in 15 years' time can be even more athletic than Alcaraz, or is he at the very, very top?
Monte Carlo, April 2026. Alcaraz walks onto the court as world number 1, defending champion and career Grand Slam holder. The crowd erupts. Every eye in that stadium is watching a man who looks completely untouchable. Everything looks perfect.
Alcaraz badly wanted to win, wanted to come out and penetrate the court enough, and he has that kind of confidence in his game.
But here's what the scoreboard doesn't show you. 3 months ago, the man who spent 7 years turning this kid into a legend was discarded, hurt, blindsided, and notably absent from 20 celebratory Instagram photos posted on New Year's Eve. Ferrero didn't leave, he was removed. And the people who removed him weren't rivals, weren't agents from rival camps, weren't enemies from outside, they were the inner circle.
Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero split up, and
we got 2 major splits within the sport. Tennis, man. There's no other sport like it.
And now, former world number 1 and 2-time Grand Slam champion Yevgeny Kafelnikov, one of the sharpest tennis experts alive, has finally broken it down in a way nobody else dared to. He called inner circle interference the biggest mistake. Not an inconvenience, not a distraction. A mistake that, in his own experience, destroys careers from the inside out. Tony Nadal went further, saying the reasons go beyond tennis. A source embedded directly inside Alcaraz's success confirmed significant disagreements between Ferrero and Alcaraz's father, who had been poisoning the camp for months. This isn't interference anymore. This inner circle is actively becoming his biggest enemy, and the damage may already be done before most fans even noticed.
Hey, this guy's got some talent. That guy's pretty quick out there. I never in my wildest dreams, I'll tell you, of all the players I've ever watched, at this age, I've never seen a player this good, this complete.
Before we go further, subscribe if you want perspectives the mainstream coverage won't touch. Now let's talk about what Kafelnikov saw that everyone else missed. Kafelnikov didn't stumble into this opinion casually, he lived it. He watched it happen to others on the ATP Tour during his own playing days. And when the Alcaraz-Ferrero story broke in December 2025, he recognized the pattern immediately, because he'd seen it destroy promising careers before they ever reached their ceiling. His exact words deserve to be sat with for a moment. Carlos is a grown man. He is the one who can make all the decisions now. I don't know why he didn't tell his father, look, it's my own deal, we've been very successful together, won so many slams, made so much money. Read that again slowly. A former world number 1 is publicly questioning why a 22-year-old 6-time Grand Slam champion, the best player on the planet, couldn't tell his own father to step back. That's not a minor observation. That's a structural alarm bell about who is actually running Team Alcaraz.
I mean, he's on a legendary career already.
I think Alcaraz definitely got room for improvement.
It feels like we'd seen the end of that kind of Carlos Alcaraz.
They're going to look at Carlos and what he does and how he loves to be aggressive and move forward, because we lost a lot of that.
I mean, Alcaraz, I'm sorry, but this guy's amazing.
You're talking about a phenom like a Carlos Alcaraz.
To understand why this matters so deeply, you need to understand exactly what Juan Carlos Ferrero was to Carlos Alcaraz, and what he wasn't. Ferrero wasn't just a coach, he was the architect. He began working with Alcaraz at age 15, before the trophies, before the fame, before the Nike deal, before the Rolex ambassadorship, before any of it. He saw something in a teenager from El Palmar, Murcia, and committed his professional life to developing it. The results speak in a language that requires no translation. 6 Grand Slam titles, 2 spells at world number 1, a TP Coach of the Year in both 2022 and 2025. A 71-9 win-loss record in 2025 alone, the best season of Alcaraz's career to date, 24 ATP titles across their partnership. And then, 9 days before Christmas 2025, it was over. Not with a conversation, not with a meeting where both parties sat down and acknowledged what they'd built together. It ended with a social media statement. Ferrero's own closing line in that statement told the entire story in 6 words. I would have liked to continue. He didn't choose to leave. That detail matters more than almost anything else in this entire saga. When Ferrero finally broke his silence in an interview with Spanish newspaper Marca, speaking from his academy in Villena, the very place where Alcaraz was shaped as a junior, he was measured but unmistakably pointed. He confirmed the financial gap was not the deciding factor. He dismissed reports about a clash over training locations being the core issue. But he made one thing absolutely clear. The decision did not come from Carlos Alcaraz. I spoke to him beforehand to ask whether he was aware of everything, and he said yes. From there, I spoke with the people I needed to speak with. The people, not the player, the people around the player. Ferrero then added something that revealed the depth of his hurt without him ever raising his voice. I gave it my all, I poured my heart and soul into this project. A man who won the French Open as a player, who rebuilt his professional identity around coaching, who dedicated over 7 years to one singular project, reduced to talking about his pain from an empty academy while his former students celebrated on Instagram without a single photo of him in sight. Every credible source that has reported on this story points toward the same figure, Carlos Alcaraz Sr. On the surface, the narrative around Alcaraz Sr. has always been warm. A former club-level player who introduced his son to tennis at age 4. A father who travels to tournaments, sits in the box, shares in every victory. Someone who, at the 2026 Australian Open, moved his son to tears during an on-court interview simply by being present in the stands. But beneath that warmth, a different picture has been forming for years. A source described by the specialist tennis publication Clay as being very close to Alcaraz's years of success stated directly, there were significant disagreements between Ferrero and Alcaraz's father about how to manage the player's career. Those disagreements didn't start in December 2025. They go back further than most people realize. In February 2023, Ferrero informed the camp he would not travel on the South American tour and was delegating that responsibility to Antonio Martinez Cascales. Alcaraz's father reportedly reacted badly to that decision. The argument that followed left a mark that never fully healed. Alcaraz won in Buenos Aires and reached the final in Rio that trip, so the results were fine, but the relationship between coach and father took a hit it would spend the next 2 years quietly absorbing.
Simply has just walked into the conversation with the best of all time. There's only so many people on earth that can walk around and say to any Grand Slam venue and be like, oh, I won here too. The youngest to have ever done it by a couple of years, edging out Rafa. And then after Rafa, it jumps too. It's not as if there's like Rafa and then there's like 3 people close like within a year.
Then came the Netflix documentary. Early 2025, Netflix releases a documentary on Alcaraz titled My Way. For most fans, it was a celebration, intimate access to the world's best player, behind-the-scenes footage, emotional moments with family. But for anyone paying close attention, it was something else entirely. Viewers watched Alcaraz visibly chafing under Ferrero's demands. The tension wasn't manufactured for drama. It was just there, caught on camera, unfiltered. A young man is increasingly resistant to structure. A coach is increasingly aware that the environment around his player is pulling in a different direction. Former Brazilian professional Fernando Meligeni, who knew Ferrero personally from their shared time on tour, gave the most candid read of what that documentary was actually communicating beneath the surface. That's My Way is the schedule. It's how much, it's how. The truth is, the problem between the player and the coach is about commitment, how much you're going to commit. If it's already difficult to coach a player, it's much more difficult to guide a player with his whole family in tow. Meligeni then delivered the line that has stuck with everyone who followed this story closely. It was won by My Way, and today you have the kid, Alcaraz's brother, and you have the father. He said that in September 2025, 3 months before the split became public. He saw it coming before most journalists did. Here is where the story shifts from uncomfortable to genuinely alarming. Spanish outlet Punto de Break dropped a detail that the wider tennis media largely glossed over, but shouldn't have. According to their reporting, Alcaraz's inner circle had wanted to remove Ferrero not in December 2025, but in 2024, a full year earlier. What happened in 2025 was going to happen in 2024, the report stated. Alcaraz's entourage wanted to dismiss Ferrero and bring in a new coach. They wanted Andy Murray. When Ferrero's own team was approached for comment, their response was a single word: astonishment. Think about the weight of that timeline. Ferrero spent 2025 delivering the greatest coaching season of his career, guiding Alcaraz to the French Open title, the US Open title, ATP Coach of the Year, and a return to world number 1. And throughout that entire year, the people around his player had already decided he was finished. He just didn't know it yet. He was coaching at the highest level of his professional life, while his position was being undermined in conversations he wasn't part of. What makes this story genuinely complex, and what separates it from a simple villain narrative, is that Carlos Alcaraz himself appears to have been caught between the world his inner circle was building and his own instincts.
I think he was physically cooked and done.
You know, it's just time. Timing is everything.
You know, we keep wondering if is there going to be anybody else. That question still is not answered.
At the 2026 Australian Open, after winning his opening match against Adam Walton, Alcaraz commented that most outlets reported as praise for his new coach, Samuel Lopez, but read between the lines and it reveals something far more telling. They've tried to put a lot of former professional players in as my coach. I don't think that's entirely fair. He didn't name names, he didn't point fingers, but he was clearly referencing pressure from within his own camp to install a high-profile ex-player as his coach, against his own preference. A 22-year-old world number 1 was publicly, if carefully, pushing back against his own entourage's agenda. That is not a healthy dynamic inside any professional sporting team. Tony Nadal has seen this film before. He coached Rafael Nadal from the age of 3 until 2017, one of the longest and most successful coach-player relationships in the history of the sport. He understands better than almost anyone alive what happens when the balance of power inside a tennis player's camp shifts in the wrong direction. His assessment of the Alcaraz-Ferrero situation was precise and damning. Relationships between players and their coaches are difficult in all sports, but even more so in tennis. The player is the one who is paying, and he's usually paying to hear what he wants to hear. That sentence is the entire problem summarized in 2 lines. When a player's inner circle gains enough influence to shape those financial and contractual decisions, when the coach becomes economically dependent on people who may not share his professional standards, the coach's ability to deliver hard truths gets quietly eroded. And hard truths are precisely what separates good coaches from great ones. Ferrero was never afraid to challenge Alcaraz. That's why the partnership worked. Remove that. Challenge, surround the player exclusively with people whose primary loyalty is personal rather than professional. And the feedback loop that drives elite performance starts to break down.
Because he's pushing the ceiling higher and higher and putting the bar up higher and higher. At 38, I mean, Carlos Alcaraz is such an unbelievable athlete that I would assume that he could be playing for at least another 15 years.
On December 31st, 2025, the final day of the year, Carlos Alcaraz posted an Instagram gallery titled My Real 2025, 20 photographs, his titles, his celebrations, his family, his life. Ferrero was not in a single one. This came days after Ferrero had given his Marca interview, the one where he said he was hurting, where he confirmed the decision wasn't made by Alcaraz, where he spoke about pouring his soul into the project. The timing of that Instagram post was not accidental. Whether it was Alcaraz's own decision or guided by the people around him, it sent a message that was impossible to misread. A coach who won 6 Grand Slams with this player, who called him a son, who gave 7 years of his professional life, erased from a year-end photo collection while the player celebrated publicly. That moment told you everything about the culture currently operating inside Team Alcaraz, and it should concern every serious tennis fan watching this player's long-term trajectory. Here is the counter-argument that will inevitably come up, and it deserves a direct response. Alcaraz started 2026 on a 12-match winning streak. He won the Australian Open. He completed the career Grand Slam at 22, the youngest in history. He won the Qatar Open shortly after. By pure results, the argument that his inner circle is damaging him looks weak. But that argument misunderstands what biggest enemy actually means in this context. The damage an inner circle causes to a player of this caliber rarely shows up immediately in match results. It shows up in the quality of professional guidance available during the hard moments. It shows up when the losses come, and they will come. And the people in the room are family members and loyalists rather than professionals equipped to deliver the kind of forensic, emotionally detached analysis that turns a slump around. Ferrero was that professional. His replacement is Samuel Lopez, a capable coach, respected within the sport. But Lopez himself acknowledged the questions surrounding the situation, noting that the split raised issues that continue to linger in the air. The real test of this inner circle won't come during a 12-match winning streak. It will come during a 5-match losing streak, a Grand Slam quarterfinal exit, and an injury layoff. Those are the moments that define careers at the very top, and those are precisely the moments where having the wrong people in your ear becomes the most dangerous thing in professional sport. Step back from the individual details. The father, the documentary, the Instagram post, the Murray rumor, and a single coherent picture emerges. Carlos Alcaraz is 22 years old. He is the most talented tennis player on the planet. He has every physical and technical tool required to dominate the sport for the next decade. His ceiling, by almost universal expert consensus, is still not fully visible. And surrounding that extraordinary talent is an inner circle that has already pushed out the most successful coach in his career, attempted to install a replacement without the player's full endorsement, operated in ways that left one of tennis's most respected figures publicly hurt and blindsided, and consolidated power in the hands of people whose qualifications are primarily emotional rather than professional. Kafelnikov called it the biggest mistake. Tony Nadal said the reasons go beyond tennis. Meligeni said, "My way," won the internal battle. And Ferrero, who built the legend, sat in an empty academy and said he was hurting. None of those voices is speaking casually. None of them has an agenda against Alcaraz. Every single one of them is sounding the same alarm from a different angle. The trophies are real. The talent is undeniable. But the structure being built around that talent, quietly, away from the cameras, inside the inner circle, is the one variable that could define whether Carlos Alcaraz becomes the greatest player of his generation, or the greatest cautionary tale. If this kind of deep, honest analysis is what you come here for, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, this channel goes where the mainstream tennis coverage won't. The stories behind the stories. The dynamics the highlight reels don't show you. That's what we do here. And there's a lot more coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Alcaraz's inner circle is a genuine threat to his legacy? Or is the trophy cabinet proof that none of this matters? Let's hear it.